A minute or two, so could everyone have their seats? I love the energy in the room. Still in a buzz from the last fireside chat. So I want to just quickly introduce the final session today. It's going to be led by Elizebeth Varghese, a grad from the class of 2007, partner Space Economy Acceleration leader at Deloitte. And this panel is entitled Innovation and Leadership in Product Development. Joining Elizebeth is Bigi, class of 2017, founder and CEO of Laws of Motion. Shar Caesar Douglas, 2013, head of marketing at TIDAL. And Janine Heck, class of 2007, senior vice president, product development, Comcast. Elizebeth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mic check, everyone can hear me okay, right? So I am fighting something, as you can gather, but I'm clean. It's not strep, it's not COVID, it's not I checked myself out yesterday before I showed up here. So I'm Elizebeth Varghese, and I am the class of 07. I'm a global, and for folks who may not know, we're the people who got dual MBAs, one from the London Business School and one from Columbia. So we used to take classes in London, traveling there. And some of us, we all held down full-time jobs. Some of us had a baby during that time. But we all survived, we're all here. And the 9 women in our class, still very close, very connected. And we're very proud to be part of this community. So thank you for including us in this session. Just one quick thing, I have to put a plug out for the Women's Circle. So I'm on the board of the Women's Circle for our school, for CBS. It's really a great organization, the Women's Circle. It's free for everyone to join. And I would highly encourage everybody to participate and contribute. There's so much we can do in the community. I'm also on the board of trustees of the SETI Institute, which works with NASA and other space agencies to explore the emergence and evolution of intelligence and life in the universe. And my day job, I'm a partner at Deloitte, leading the space acceleration economy. I'm delighted to introduce these brilliant panelists. Now, anything I read out from a bio is going to be insufficient to explain the impact these women are making in their community. So please look them up and get to know them. I'll just start us off with Janine Heck, class of 07. Jeanine is the Senior Vice President of Entertainment Product in the Technology Product and Experience Organization of Comcast Cable. She's class of 07, and she's leading the company's efforts to connect customers to streaming content via a global entertainment technology platform. So Janine's at the intersection of so many things we live and breathe. Shar Douglas, of class of 13. She's an award-winning marketing executive. Now she's on the ad age 40 under 40, and she's currently the head of marketing for TIDAL. She's doing some really cool and interesting stuff, working in the music and entertainment space, working with artists, and really transforming that industry. And Carly, class of 17, is the founder of CEO of Laws of Motion. Now, Carly is helping all of us shop online, especially with the sizing technology that her AI company is putting out there very successfully. She is also an adjunct lecturer in entrepreneurial strategy and teaches a published case at CBS, which is great. I mean, I love the engagement and coming back to school. So with that, I'll just hand this over to Jeanine to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about your journey and wisdom you have to share for our community.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Jeanine, and I started out as an engineer. I studied computer science in undergrad, and I actually worked like 5 blocks from here at the New York Stock Exchange for my first job, and did a lot of like regulatory systems and trading investigation kind of work. And went back to business school to change careers. I thought I didn't like my job as much as I wanted to, and so I thought I didn't like financial services and I didn't like software. But what I ended up learning through going to business school is that I actually came back to software, and I ended up going to a different industry, digital media. And that was really because I just wanted to be in an industry that I was passionate about, and I grew up watching a lot of TV. Shameless about my TV watching because it makes me good at my job. And yeah, it was around the time that YouTube was new. It was a long time ago. And yeah, I wanted to get into digital media, and that was my mission while I was at Columbia. And I did end up going to Comcast, and I've been there 17 years now. My expertise has been in content discovery. So I really early on started working on the problem of helping people find something to watch on TV, and became an expert on search. That was like very unsexy back then. And so it was kind of like, oh, like talk to Jeanine, she can deal with that. And so I learned a lot about information retrieval, natural language processing, building a search index. And then right around 2011, this little thing called Siri came out, and then shortly after that, Alexa, and voice became really interesting to us. And it turned out that we had really technologically built a really good foundation for voice because we had already done a great search engine. And so I got this chance to work on our voice control product, which is now the voice remote for our set-top boxes, and we have more than 30 million voice remotes worldwide. And I got to work on it when it was a little science project, and it was like a rocket because we realized this was really solving customer problems pretty early on. We launched an app that people downloaded on iOS, and they were saying voice commands into the app. That was enough data for us to train and have really high accuracy by the time we got the physical remote deployed. And so it was kind of a dream product for a product manager. I got to work on something very cutting edge, very difficult. We had a lot of trouble scaling and just like a lot of challenges in re-architecting. And those who work in tech, you're constantly re-platforming. There's, AI has changed so dramatically from the time that I started working in it. And so we're always trying to keep up and rebuild our systems. But since then, I've also really become a people leader, and I lead all of our entertainment product now. And so I have like a staff of 160 people. They're all product managers, or there's a little bit of operations on our team as well. And we work very closely with engineers, and we are really competing to build the best entertainment operating system for our customers, whether that's through retail. We have a brand called Xumo that is in retail stores, Walmart and Best Buy, Xumo TV, and we also have our set-top boxes, and we're actually syndicating quite a bit to Charter, Cox, all of the cable companies in North America, as well as Sky, and recently we just launched in Foxtel too.
It's great. So exciting to see that intersection of, that it all comes together at the most individual customer level. Shar, tell us a little bit about, your story in terms of your journey as, you started out, and any wisdom you have to impart.
My journey actually is somewhat similar to Jeanine. I'm also an engineer from undergrad and also started my career in finance at JP Morgan. And I was actually more of a business analyst, so writing the business requirements documents that you would then hand over to the product managers. And what I realized about that experience, and I loved JP Morgan, but what I liked was the roadshow after we built the product to help the traders or the middle office team understand the product we built, influence them to actually use it. And I tried to actually network onto the marketing team while I was there, and I was not successful, but I do still believe in networking across the organization. And my mentor actually said, you should go to business school. That's going to be the clearest way for you to kind of get the underlying skills that you're missing in terms of the relationships that you're building, but then also what you can deliver and the impact you can have. So I came to Columbia. It was an opportunity for me to not only sharpen up the technical side of what I'd been doing and apply that to business, but also for me to start exploring different industries. And so I left Columbia, I moved to San Francisco. I worked at a startup as the first marketing hire. And that allowed me to not only get exposure to tech, but also have every underlying function of marketing. And from there, I was very big on video. I went to YouTube. I started leading the creator marketing team and ended up moving to London to build the team for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And a lot of what I was doing there was not only building the audience community of creators, but also helping partner with the product marketing team, the product managers, in order to deliver the right products to the community that we were building. And so I find I slot in an interesting intersection here because marketing, you understand the channels, social, influencer, digital, all of that, but we actually are marketing the products that are being built by the engineers and the product managers. And so now at TIDAL, that's a huge focus for us. My audience at YouTube was creators, and now my audience at TIDAL is artists and music creators, but a lot of the underlying kind of playbook around how do we support this community with both programming, education, but also product education is a huge focus for me. And so what I would say for anyone who's thinking not only about transitioning your career, but just maximizing your impact is learn as much as you can about all of the different functions that you're intersecting with at your company, but even the teams and departments that you're not necessarily working with. The person who can connect the dots, I think, is the most valuable person at the company. So I would encourage you to continue to network, build those relationships, but also just learn.
Love that, being the connector, the translator, the intersection. I think there's so much impact and so much power, especially as we're all going into a very dynamic industry environment. And now, Carly, you went from corporate to entrepreneurship. That's a big shift also in paradigm of how you started after school. Tell us a little bit about that journey and things you learned along the way.
Yeah, so hi everyone, Carly Bigi from Laws of Motion. I originally grew up in Houston, Texas, with deep roots in the NASA shuttle program. So I was that 5-year-old who carried a backpack of tools in case I needed to build something or fix something. And I go home today and everyone's like, of course Carly's using data science to solve for sizing in the apparel industry. Like, that's so on brand, it's disgusting. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose so. I went off to Vanderbilt, sold my soul into management consulting in a good way, loved Deloitte, had an incredible experience. And it was right before going to business school at Columbia that I had the idea for what eventually became Laws of Motion. And I was shopping one weekend with a guy friend, and it was the first time I really appreciated how the other half shopped. So he went into a semi-custom menswear shop, and he sipped whiskey and picked fabric and got measured, and he was out the door in 30 minutes. I'm sure we can all relate. That was not my experience. I spent my entire Saturday in and out of a dozen stores trying to find a basic black dress that sort of fit, was sort of my style. Everyone's nodding yes. Took it to get tailored, waited a week, and in the end, I paid twice the price for something I liked half as much. And I was on an all-female team at the time at Deloitte. And I went back to my team on Monday and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But when I go to Columbia, I'm going to find a way to use data science to solve for sizing in the apparel industry. And so that is what we are doing. Laws of Motion is an AI sizing technology. We took a very different approach. We incubated it in our own direct-to-consumer brand, which we can talk more about, and are now a rising tide for the entire apparel industry as we license that solution. My advice for anyone thinking about taking the jump and either starting your own company or transitioning from corporate America to a startup is that anything that, if it was easier or obvious, it would already be done. Right? So it takes that grit and that fortitude and that vision to bring anything that doesn't exist already to life. And if that is inside of you, it's there for a reason. So go for it.
I love that. Love that. That's really inspiring because I think there's, so many of us are at our day job sometimes thinking, hey, I really should start something and solve a problem I'm suffering from. And you've done that. That's brilliant. Now, Jeanine, you started out, being this translator, working at the intersection of product and AI pretty early. You were driving some very interesting disruption from 2013 when you built that voice remote using AI. How was it being that innovative and trying to create a product around that and take that to market while being part of a big corporate entity?
Well, it is definitely challenging. I mean, the corporate part, like in a big company, especially a heavily regulated industry, there's always challenges. And I loved your point about getting to know the people across the company because there are times where you're about to launch a feature and you realize that you haven't gone through your compliance team's audit of it, and there are things like that really the relationships go a long way when you need to get something done quickly. But yeah, I think so. The AI piece has been really interesting. I've kind of gotten to watch the AI industry evolve, and we launched Voice Remote. It was not an AI product as we define AI today, but I would still consider it AI because to me, I think all algorithms like that, I use that term a bit broadly. And I think so the models and the way that you create models and certainly the accuracy and the depth of what you can do today has changed so much from where we were. Originally we were building voice with patterns, so if somebody said, change the channel to CNN, that was like a pattern and we just kind of had to model out all of the patterns that we thought the user might say. But then in like 2014, we started to use machine learning and, when somebody changes the channel to CNN using their remote, there are 24,000 different ways to do that. Just to say that one thing, turn on CNN. So you really can't sit there and like think of every single pattern. You do have to use machine learning, and so it was just a natural evolution for us to use it. But I will say that there are still times where we use some of the heuristics or the basics, because it is still faster. So we use a hybrid approach really when it comes to AI. We're still doing some things that are rule-based, or if you're asking for Netflix, Netflix, boom. We don't have to run that through the very sophisticated algorithm to figure out what to do there. So it's been really interesting to kind of take each piece of the evolution and use it differently. I think that LLMs, like the large language models that are available today, we're certainly working to get them into our products. We're not exactly there. There's a lot of challenges with scaling, with accuracy, and making sure that you're able to measure the downside to letting something, this black box really rule your product. So we still have a lot of challenges there, but it's really exciting. And I think for us as a company going broader into things like customer care, so we're an internet company. So if you are having trouble with your internet, there are so many things that could be wrong with what's going on in your Wi-Fi in your house. And the large language models now can really take every document that we've ever written to help you. They can look at every customer call we've ever had and what did work and what didn't, and really make sense of just information that we couldn't have written algorithms to take care of 5 years ago. So it is really amazing to see the stage that we're at now and what you can do. And it's blowing my mind. It's definitely a little scary too. But it's really exciting to see how quickly this whole space has evolved in just, the 17 years I've been in my career.
That's amazing. And just one more follow-up question to that. Given all of that, in terms of what you've seen, how are you seeing the role of the product manager change and evolve? And love your perspective from a corporate perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have very specific opinions on how to do product management. So product is really, you're the partner to the engineer. So really, the product, it's software, and software is code. And if you don't write code, you need someone who does. So your engineers are very important. And so to me, the relationship with my engineers is my number one relationship that I need to maintain. And you need to really understand what they're building and actually recognize that the best ideas come from engineers. And so to me, the time with engineering is something that, I manage a team now. So when we talk about, performance of our product managers, if I'm hearing, his engineers love him. He just really has a great relationship with the engineers. And, that's the best thing I could possibly hear about someone on my team. Obviously, you want to know your customer. That's your stakeholder that you're really trying to advocate for. You're trying to make sure that whatever you're building meets the needs of your customer, first and foremost. But I think the engineering piece is one that I've realized, and it's been an advantage for me to be close to my engineers and bring forward their ideas and also bring back information to them, why are we doing this? I've been that engineer who was coding and kind of saying, why are we building this feature? Who decided this? And so if you can be the product person who, connects that for the engineers, you're gonna be more successful. But yeah, I think in a big company, you do really interface with legal, you interface with marketing. There was a time where our voice remote was the thing we talked about in every single ad about the Xfinity brand. And so I was constantly working with our marketing team to make sure that they knew, what's the commands they could talk about in the ads. And you never want to be surprised, like on the opening day of the Olympics, that there's an ad with a voice command that you didn't know was going to be in the ad. Yeah. Right. So, like you need to stay close with everybody, all of your stakeholders in the company. And being in such a big company, it's very matrix. It's very, there's a lot of people doing similar jobs. And I think it's a great thing because you have a lot of checks and balances and you get really high quality work. But it can feel a little bit difficult. So a lot of the time I'm trying to coach people on how to maneuver through that. And, because you have this urgency, all people in tech have this, like, we got to ship this, let's go. Right. And so to figure out how to do things quickly and not wait a month for a meeting because, you can't get on someone's calendar, that is like a really tricky thing. And so you've got to find that right balance to be able to innovate and bring everybody along with you.
That's super insightful. I think that reinforcing that tight connection we need with the tech team and the engineers to create the product, I think is so, you cannot overemphasize that enough. Of that. And Carly, for you, how was that experience? Because you took your company to 40 times the revenue, right? Very quickly in the first couple of years. So what was your working partnership with the engineering team like? Tell us a little bit about that as you brought product out.
Yeah, so we 40x revenues in our first 2 years, and it was an interesting time to say the least because we were 9 months old when COVID hit. So, all the New Yorkers in the room can relate to what that felt like. And so as a New York-based team with operations in New York and across the United States, so on-demand production, the Laws of Motion team, it created a really interesting dynamic to figure out, what are we going to do now? So really leaning into how nimble we can be and how anything that's purpose-driven in your pursuits, I think, is something that will service you. And so we took that opportunity, continued with R&D with our engineers and with our head of product, and we pivoted. So 9 months in, I'm sick with COVID. My team, businesses are shutting down. Temporary morgues are popping up. The United States is having a hard time importing personal protective equipment. We have Governor Cuomo saying, if you can produce it, please do. So as a team, we decided, this is when we dig into the ingenuity and innovation that got us to where we are today, and we pivot and we do everything we can to help. And in 2020, we ended up producing over 5 million pieces of personal protective equipment. We launched what was called the Hero Initiative, and we had 3 pillars. So the first was our customer base, and we took the lining from our product and made little silky robes called the Hero Robe. And for every robe you purchased, we donated 10 masks to a frontline hero in need. The second was communities, and in 2020, we donated over 1 million masks. And the third was contracts. So we were in a service contracts for different states, ultimately for the Department of Defense. And during that time, we were heads down, still working on R&D. We got 10,000 extra data set and just kept going. But we were able to take our core capabilities and pivot them for good. So same, but different. I think, really like understanding how much you're able to do as a team. And it isn't always exactly the blueprint that you expect, but sometimes it can be even better. So.
Brilliant. So that intersection of purpose and serendipitous in some ways, but really helped shape how you looked at the product and why you were bringing something out to market.
Totally.
Love that. Now, Shar, you did something similar in a different way in that you helped monetize. So Shar, as you folks know, she was very significant in YouTube's expansion in Europe, especially in Egypt and a few other countries. And one of the things I thought was very interesting that you did was you ensured the monetization of revenue for the content providers, similar to how it was happening for advertisers. So again, purpose-driven in many ways. Tell us a little bit about that, aspect of what you did and how that, also was. How did you make that happen? Because that was a business model shift and a product shift.
Sure. So I guess, as you guys know, YouTube shares the revenue that they make from advertisers with the creators. And when I moved to London to lead Europe, Middle East, and Africa, what we were seeing was that those creators were less satisfied with YouTube as a platform because they were making less money. And actually, they were making less money because the advertising, the way the advertisers were coming online they weren't spending as much either. So you almost had this triangle of the ads team working to bring on more advertisers, but then we also needed to do the work of making sure that the advertisers had great content that they wanted to advertise against. And so that's actually where marketing was able to kind of come in and say on the education front at scale, so using life cycle growth, we are going to use our insights to understand why these creators are not creating as great of content. And one of the insights, which was super fascinating for us, was around languages and actually what topics these creators wanted to discuss. So, Europe, Middle East, Africa, very different. So when we're looking at all of the data, we're telling the European creators something different than what we're actually talking about to the African creators when we're coaching them. But then what we also realized is that just culturally, or just even how those countries are set up, different mechanisms around monetization were working for some countries and not working for others. And so what I loved about that experience is we were able to use the marketing insights, focus groups, and qual, but also quant data to understand, okay, here's the business outcome we need to achieve, but we're going layers and layers deeper, and then we were actually able to sort of personalize the education that the creators needed. But what I also kind of think about is just this idea of hotspot analysis, because my top line metric as marketing was, are creators happy on YouTube? And the business metric is actually how much money are we making on YouTube? And so there is a connection there. And what I was able to figure out with our insights team is there are certain countries that are dragging our score down, certain verticals of content that are dragging our scores down. So we actually realized we're going to go deep on French gaming creators, German lifestyle creators. And it was a different approach, but we went deep with those audiences, and we were able to lift our top line metric and then take those learnings and apply them to other markets and countries. And of course, you're always looking at the optimization you can make, but what we were able to do is then apply some of those learnings at a market level to a representation. Now we're focused on Black creators. And so there's a real opportunity when you're looking at the insights, and marketing tends to own those insights, but then also being able to come back to the full team with, here's the plan, I need to work with the product managers, or I need to work with engineering to influence the roadmap so we have the tools we need to scale the marketing programs that we're building. But it's hard to be a creator. It's hard to be an artist. Many of them are not making money. They can't do that full time. So for us, when we look at purpose-driven, just being able to say, I have increased the number of creators who are making money and the percentage of, and the amount of money that they are making every year, that lifts the whole tide eventually.
Love that. And so how are you using some of these insights to, because I know you're developing new product, artist collaboration tools, the TIDAL. Tell us a little bit about that, because you're taking those insights, and then you're actually using those to create something absolutely new, to tap into new communities. And so tell us a little bit about that if you can.
What's interesting about business is you're joining different companies at different stages. So when I was at YouTube, no one really understood YouTube. No one knew what a creator was. And the monetization was already sort of in flow though. And so we were actually just iterating on different features. At TIDAL now, where we're looking at kind of expanding into that direct relationship with artists, we're actually starting at the beginning of what is the pain point for artists in the industry, full stop, which is slightly different. And really what we have found is time to spend on their art and their craft, and then going another layer deeper and saying, well, why can't they spend that time? It's actually quite complex, but one of the challenges that we've seen from artists and music creators is that they want to be able to manage their business end to end, but they also want to have that time to deliver and create music. So what we're thinking about at TIDAL, which is part of Block, which has Square, Cash App, Afterpay, is tackling both sides. So on the creative front, we're actually looking at a tool called Artist Collabs, and that allows artists to be part of our platform, TIDAL Artist Home, and we surface up recommendations for those artists, for people that have both in a discovery mindset and in a continuity context, artists that they can collab with. So that's kind of one area where we're looking at this top line insight of saving artists time. But then in parallel, we're also thinking about how do we help them manage their business end to end. Music artists, they're the next generation of media empires. We've seen what Rihanna has been able to build. And so in parallel, we're also looking at the ecosystem that Block provides around, okay, this artist can now have their creativity as well as manage their entire business in one place. And so that's what we're moving towards.
That's so transformational, and we don't think about that as much, that ecosystem does provide some of these biggest, most successful, most impactful business people, right? Folks we may not have considered might become corporate winners, or folks who might be navigating that. Love that. So, Karina, to you, just a question. You took a very different approach to your AI sizing technology. It was a SaaS solution, right? You decided to incubate that in your own apparel brand, direct to consumer. Tell us about that decision, how you decided to, because there's a bit of risk, which I'm sure you weighed, and it was wildly successful. And so that, and then what really differentiates that technology from the market?
Yeah, so lawsmotion.com is a direct-to-consumer brand, right? So we started, we are the first AI sizing technology that was built in an apparel brand for apparel brands. And to me, that just kind of made sense. Like, why would we go build a technology in a silo and then just go sell it, as opposed to having the opportunity to longitudinally study how consumers engage with it as we iterate on that technology, collect billions of data points, use highly tailored product as human in the loop for our machine learning, right? And then along the way, build a really incredible community. I mean, Laws of Motion, the name itself, is all about being a force at whoever you choose to be. And so being able to play that role in so many women's lives along the way, and recognize that one-to-one correlation between how well something fits you, and not only that extra inch physically, but that extra inch mentally, is something that's been a really incredible part of our journey. As we go forward, a number of things differentiate us. We believe in transparency of impact. So we are the first technology that shows the real-time impact to a brand's KPIs. So return rate, conversion, how are your sizes proportioned today? But what do your customers' bodies actually look like? Where is an opportunity for you to extend your sizing and to capture that addressable market? And also really leaning into the customer side of things. So visualizing how different products fit on you, providing different, choose your own adventure interface. So if you want to use a body scan, you can. If you prefer to answer the fit quiz, you can. And we connect the dots on the back end with over 99% accuracy in predicting your actual body measurements. So it's been a really different approach to building and scaling technology, but something that has been an incredible journey and has really helped us differentiate our use case and the impact of the tech across the industry.
That's fascinating. I have to ask, is there any example you can share about what you've learned about consumer sizing and what people are buying?
Well, how much time do we have? So I will say, one of the biggest things is brands today, like the way that sizing works at any mass market brand, is they're taking one human and they're measuring their body, and then they're linearly scaling up an inch and down an inch to create a size range. Now, that sounds great, but in practicality, statistically speaking, you're going to fit 2 to 5% of the population on a good day. So that's why we gravitate towards certain brands that, this one fits me better because the human that they're measuring has similar proportions. It makes no sense. A lot of things about the industry don't, which is why I'm so glad that we did start our own brand and really dig into how things can be done differently and be able to show, not just tell. But I think that is one of the biggest opportunities, and something that when you visualize data and can show a brand, here's your linear sizing, but here's how your customers are actually proportioned, and that makes no sense. So maybe, your 4 should be proportioned this way, your 8 should be proportioned this way. The lack of precision data today is just a huge opportunity that we're tackling, and something that I think will immensely add value to consumers around the world.
That's great. So I don't know if you're doing on time, but I do have one more question to all three of you, and then we can take audience questions. But Jeanine, just from your perspective, given that you've been working at this intersection with emerging tech since 2013, way before people were bringing this out to market, how are you seeing emerging tech like AI or Gen AI impacting your business and your product going forward?
I mean, it's an amazing impact. We're able to, I think, I'm a customer-facing product builder. So, most of my goal is to get people to love our products and use them more. So that's usually what we're focused on, and we've definitely seen an impact there by being able to use AI and, getting people to spend more time with our products and to find more content they love. I think that the other side of it is also the operational efficiency, and so, there's always the scary thing of, AI taking people's jobs, and that I think, we will figure that out because there's plenty of jobs to be had. But I think that if somebody, so I talked a little bit about call centers. If somebody calls into our call center with a problem with their internet, the agent would normally have walked them through basically a menu that they're looking at of 100 different options. If we can get the list of options a lot smaller using some predictive capabilities, some personalization, that shortens that call. That's a lot of costs that we are taking out of that system. So I think that right now that's what we see right in front of us is the ability to find a lot of operational efficiencies. And this new capability of large language models is really we're able to implement it right away.
Right.
So it's been pretty amazing. And I think AI is going to go into content. We will get there in a few years where the ending changes for your show because, you kind of want to go on your own path with your content. And, I think that we're going to see some of that. And that part, I think, I get excited about those things where the user experience is changing. Right. Has anybody gone to the Apple store and tried the Vision Pro? Raise your hand if you've gone. Go to the store. You set up an appointment. It's 20 minutes. They walk you through. It's the best demo. If you like tech, this demo is beautifully scripted and done. It is a master class in how to do a product demo to start with. But you see, and at one point in the video, you're navigating through. It's like you're navigating in an iPhone, and it's all 3D. And at one point, Alicia Keys is right here, and I feel like I met her. I feel like I know what she looks like now, and how talk about size. I'm oh, I know what it feels like to stand next to her. Wow. And but that immersive capability is coming, and Apple is showing us what's possible. I don't think many of us would want to spend what it costs to buy it, but there's really amazing content and entertainment experiences to come. So that's what I get most excited about with what's emerging.
That's great. That's great. And on that note, right, entertainment, customer feedback, music, Alicia Keys. So how are you seeing emerging tech transform your business and your industry, Shar?
Sure. So obviously we have to be careful around fraud, but from an artist standpoint, the just ability to create more and even just be able to better express themselves. So there's lots of tools that are coming up that give a creator and an artist an ability to do things that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do. The fact that we're getting entire, albums and EPs from, someone on a mattress with a computer, that's actually good for creativity and kind of lowering that entry level and that barrier to create really impressive art. So that's where I'm excited about seeing the industry going, is just helping artists, helping creators bringing more to life for, in service of the connection that they build, but even just telling their stories.
Right. So using technology to create more content that's more interesting and more aligns with, making it easier. I love that. And Carly, from your perspective, so what next? How are you seeing emerging tech, take Lost Motion to the next level?
Yeah, so what really energizes us is being a rising tide, both for brands, the industry as a whole, and helping them figure out their sizing, figure out how to reduce returns and size sampling, and at a minimum, help reduce the carbon emissions for the planet. But on the other side of that, it's really empowering consumers. I think as customers that have limited time, limited resources, there's a million different things that we're all balancing, the ability to confidently shop online, be able to be informed about what size you want to order, not have to deal with returns. I mean,
Yes,
I can't. So the totem pole of boxes that need to go back, right? It's a lot, and that's energy that we should be focused on changing the world. And so I'm really excited about the impact that we're having on individual consumers and for brands across the industry.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. It's amazing panel. And we can now take questions from the audience. We have about 10 minutes. So.
Thank you, ladies. Hi, I'm Olivia Mel, class of 2021. Kind of newly minted, but not really. I am a product manager at an internet company, and I came into that role with just business school, no product experience, but had the fortune to have skilled up very quickly and very far in an organization that supported my development in that area. I did not come from an engineering background, but I heard you all talk about the relationships with engineers being so important and being able to communicate and understand different functions in your organization to win, and through the lens of product management. As I see product management roles in the marketplace, the requirements for a product management role, especially for women, the bar is very different out there in the market today. And there seems to be much more of a focus on this deep data knowledge, which of course is so important, but it can be harder for women to get that knowledge on the job. And so I wonder, just what do you think? I guess this question is more for Jeanine, I guess, shared industry and a profession, but what do you think, given what you've said about what excites you about your team and your background with engineering, what is the key to win for a female in product development?
Well, I will say, being someone who hires a lot of product people, I do not look for a specific profile. I think it is really, there are so many people from very different backgrounds on the team who are phenomenal product people. So, we have English majors who, kind of got into it from a journalism point of view. They worked on a .com site and started to, pivot into tech. We have people who have done marketing and, people who are project managers. Really, I think I like people who understand the software development cycle. So get involved with a software team, because you'll see what it's like to deploy software. And if you learn from a few cycles of deploying, you really do get knowledge that pays off a lot. So anybody who's involved in any way in a software development cycle, I like that profile. But I think you bring up a great point about data. If somebody can understand data, and no matter what you're doing with your product, obviously like an AI product, it's built on data and it's training on data. But even if you're building like a button that someone clicks, you need to build in telemetry. You need to make sure that your logs tell you what information, what insights you're going to need. So being very data-centric is a great profile, and it's only getting more valuable nowadays with the way the products are built. So I love somebody who understands data, is very comfortable with spreadsheets. Because I think, you brought it up also, Carly, Shar, the quant and qual piece to product, a lot of times, yes, you gotta get into the quant, you gotta dive in and understand your data, but I think you also need to marry the insights, and that's what's so interesting. So that brings me to my last point, which is empathy. So people who can understand people, that's also, that's the human part of product management. And there are times where it's just, you wouldn't have realized, oh, I really need this feature, unless another human brought up the idea. And so you need the qualitative as well as the quantitative. So people who are empathetic, that goes a really long way. And you can bring the empathy back to your engineers to my original point, that, imagine what it feels like to be an engineer on the team. And, if you can have empathy with your engineers and bring the best out of them, you're going to have a really amazing, innovative product as well.
So poet and a quant need to be both.
Hi. My question is relating to, as a leader in the industry, looking at these emerging technologies, how do you ensure buy-in from the leaders who are not very enthusiastic about tech or don't understand tech that well? So how do you ensure that buy-in? How difficult it is to bring them on the same page and trying to navigate through the challenges that may come across, especially in the media industry, where Netflix came out of the blue and then transformed the industry, and many people saw it coming, but they did not get the buy-in from the senior leadership. So how do you stay on top of that?
Shar, you want to take
Sure,
that?
I can take that. And this is actually less about getting buy-in specific for technology, but just about getting buy-in generally, which is that, one, you need to be bringing forth the problem, but also the recommendation and the rationale. And for me, that comes back to, well, what impact can, in this case, the technology bring? What are the trade-offs? What are the risks? What are the opportunities? And then what I like to also think about is, well, who do I need to buy in on this? Because I think sometimes people think this person's the approver, but actually they're influenced by these 4 people over here. And so I actually do sometimes, if it's a P0 large spend initiative, I know exactly who I need the buy-in from. I know exactly how they think. I know what kind of data and rationale is going to convince them, because we all are convinced of information differently. And then I think sequencing, and I imagine you agree with sequencing as well from a product standpoint, the order in which you tell people the information and the order in which you go to your stakeholders really does matter. So I would think about, what are you trying to actually achieve with your recommendation beyond just this thing here is cool, why, and what positive impact is it going to have on the business?
Great. Good question.
Hi, I'm Terry Mendelson, class of 97, and apropos product development, I thought I might seize this opportunity to possibly spark a new product. I was talking with Tess Mateo about the opportunity she was the class of 97 woman who had so much interesting data about women's control of capital. And so we were talking about the opportunity to tap into, create a database where one can easily find products and businesses that were created and run by Columbia Business School women alumni. So just a quick show of hands, we were wondering how many of you would be interested in getting access to such a product so that you could be informed about the products that you're buying and support your colleagues. Great, thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Great.
Love that.
Hi. I'm Gravette Brown, class of 2005. So I think Shar and Carly, you both mentioned it. You talked about intersectionality, but all of you really touched on this world of this broader scope, I suppose, of marketing that includes both commercial analysis, data science, AI, product development, and all kind of informing what we eventually show to the consumer. And roles are always changing and shifting, and what we call ourselves is always changing and shifting. How would you, and any of you can answer this, but how would you amalgamate all of that into a succinct kind of sentence or description of what is marketing now, what is product development now, what is a commercial lead now, when we're using all of these new roles? You can either be a chief commercial officer, a chief marketing officer, you can be a product specialist, a founder, and data scientist. It really encompasses so much. So that I just wondered how you kind of articulate that in a really tight sort of description of what you're doing, because the roles do encompass all of those facets. And I think each of you has spoken to that.
I'll take a quick stab, I'll let you go then too. I think for marketing now, we have always been truly the voice of the customer, and then ultimately ensuring how we bring those products to life across every touch point that you could have with your end user. So that's my most succinct version.
Mine's a little more visual. So I was sitting down with one of our investors recently, and he's like, "Oh, will you draw out your org, help me understand where the sales hire is going to fit in?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I drew a series of concentric circles that all overlapped. And it was a circle with circles and overlapping, and the tech was in the middle, and I was like, "Sales goes here." And he's like, sorry, usually it's boxes and sticks. And I was like, that's just not how we function. Like that doesn't move the needle. That's not a 1 + 1 is something a heck of a lot more than 2. And so I think it's about thinking about the overlap and like really whoever's in that middle of that circle, whether that's always the customer. Functionally, it's tech for us, but I think recognizing that and embodying that is important.
Janine, you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still about connecting to the customer. So it's kind of like, how do you take the thing you're building and make it have meaning to the customer, whether you're trying to sell it to them or get them to use it. That's what it always is this connection between your product and the customer. And that there's a lot of things that fall into that bucket.
Thank you. Great. I'll turn it over to Michael.
There's like so much gems being dropped this afternoon, man. I really amped. And the thing is, like, guys also have those sizing challenges too, so I'm really excited for that because
It's coming.
So keep on going, and then Jeanine, like, I can't wait to like just reinvent and just like change ending of Game of Thrones, and Shar, that last note about sequencing, like how do you tell people the order? I mean, that's like, I wish I'd heard this before. Anyhow, so we're all done in terms of the formal programming now. So now we're going to do the networking lunch. And it's also sponsored in partnership with the Columbia Business School Women's Circle as well. But the thing I would say though, right, is that like, because I've done inclusion work for 22 years now at Columbia. And we are the change that we want to see. So I hope people will leave here with at least like 5 to 10 new friends, people that you've met who excite you and so on. And again, like keep talking and then make some real change, So don't leave here with no new contacts, all right? So again, thanks everyone for coming, and please stay for lunch and network as well. Thanks again, everyone.